Hey everyone, if you're new here, my name is Andrew Hess. We just got back from the Power Platform Conference. If I met you there, it was totally awesome. I'm gonna make a video on that. We'll get into that. But today, since I was gone, I had a lot of questions come in. So I wanted to knock out some of those questions that came in. Let's go over one of those questions that was sent to me in one of the YouTube comments. All right, so I had a question about, I would call this flattening a data table or flattening a data source. It was by CDDL. Thanks for even considering. If you ask me questions and I think it's a good video, most likely you might get a video. I could tell that the user spent some time making these tables. So we have a table here of data, and it's ID, name, manager, and details. And you can see right here, you have a multi-line select. And they want to turn this into a flattened table, right? So you extract out the multi-selects and you flatten the data table. And I asked them, do you want to do this in Power Apps, Power Automate? And Power BI is also an option. And they want to use Power Apps, and it was Power Apps for sure. Okay, so let's flatten the data in Power Apps. All right, so I'm going to start here in SharePoint. This is where I'm comfortable. This is where I like to be. This doesn't matter. This doesn't matter if it's in SharePoint, Dataverse, SQL. It's all kind of close to the same. You may have a few differences. All right, so since I'm in SharePoint, I get an out-of-the-box column, right? So out of the box, I can show an ID field. In SharePoint, I get an ID field. Now, also what we want is we want to have a manager field. I'm probably not going to do a people picker. Just not going to add that complexity in there yet. Manager field, and then I'm going to do a multi-select, so a choice field, right? And we're going to have some choices in here. So I think we'll have lamp, tie, pen, desk, and let's see what else. We have chair, so this is straight from what the user shared with me. Lamp, desk, chair, phone, one more, phone, details. Well, you maybe don't want to do details, but that's fine. All right, so now we have some fields here. I'm going to move ID over, and then I'm going to rename title to name. All right, now I'm going to add some line items in here. I'm going to do exactly what the user sent me. That's John Smith. Manager is Larry Jones. And the details are lamp. Oh, we forgot one thing. We have to make our choice field multi-select. So I'll go back in here. More options. Allow. Oh, I'm in the way. Let me move me. Right here, allow multiple selections. We'll turn that on. We'll click save. Let's try again. So we have name, John Smith. Larry Jones is the manager. And then now for our details. Lamp, desk, chair, and phone. Okay, I'm going to hit save. So we have one row. Now let's create a second row. The second row is Harry Hall, Jane Smith. Details are tie, pin, and mug. I don't think I added mug in here. Tie, pin. Let's do choice 7. And then let's add a mug in there. So let's see here. We'll go back here, edit. This is good anyways. Mug. And then just so you can see how you can edit this, you can come back in here and you can also select mug. And click the checkbox, save it, refresh. Okay, we have 2 rows now. John Smith, Harry Hall, and you can see we have a multi-select here with the new bubble look. So this is all using the new look in SharePoint that Microsoft pushed out on everybody using lists. All right, so now let's go to Power Apps. Okay, now there's a few different ways to visualize this data. We're going to insert a data table. All right, and the data table we're going to connect to SharePoint. SharePoint, my new site. I believe it was called Flatten. Yep, that's it right there. Flatten. FlattenMe was my list. We're going to connect to that. Okay, you can see we have object here. We don't have ID in there. Let's see, add field ID. Okay. Object. So details came in like that. Let's see here. How can we fix details? So details comes in as object, but object just means that there's arrays in there. You know, there's groups of data. So how can we fix this? I know this is not the video, but let's just go ahead and fix it real quick. What I would do simply is up here in the text, I'll change this to concat this item.details, and then I'm going to concat it by value and a comma. And that's it. There we go. So now we've fixed our table already. So you can see we have those options now concatenated by a comma. And we have it in a data table. Now, if we did this in a gallery, it might be a little bit different, but that's fine. Let's just leave it as it is for now. So now what I want to do is do another table. I'm really starting to like tables more and more with the modern. There's a lot more control here. I love being able to filter and do all the new stuff with the tables. All right, so this data table is going to be different because we are going to recollect our columns. So to do that, I'm just going to do a button. Now it can be any type of button you want, but we're working on functionality here, not on UI UX. What we want to focus on is the on select. Let's break this down in parts. So first we're going to collect, and it's going to be called collection MyCollection. I don't know, call it whatever you'd like right now. So we're going to collect that, and of course you could just say FlattenMe and get everything in SharePoint, right? So if I collected this and press the button and we check out our collections, we're going to get 2 rows of everything in here. So right, we have 2 rows, and you'll probably see those objects. Let's see, where's details in here? Here's details. This is where it's kind of split up by a value. You see the value in there. Okay, so that's not that helpful. All right, so let's break it up a little bit more. So now we could say ForAll, FlattenMe, collect, and we're going to need ending parentheses here. What do we want to collect? The certain columns that we want. So we want ID. What else was there? Title is actually name, right? So we renamed the title field. This is just for SharePoint. Manager, and details was details. All right, so now let's check this one out. Let's press the button. I'm going to put the data table as our collection name, which was COL. Let's see, what was it? colMyCollection. And so on this data table, we can add our fields. We have ID, title, manager, details. So we can see that we have that there. I wish I could make things a little better here. Let's see. Let's try and fit everything in there. All right, so details is actually blank right now. So once again, it's inside there. So up here, we can say the same thing we did before. The same thing we did on the details column, the concat, and maybe this is ThisRecord.Details. So now it's this record instead of this value. Let's recollect, and you can see we have this here. But one problem is we did not clear the data. So every time we click on it, it collects every time. So now let's add a clear at the top here. Clear colMyCollection. So now when I hit the button, we only get 2 rows. And let's make it a little bit bigger. I want to be able to see everything. How do I make it so I can see everything? There we go. Now we can see everything. And I really like the new, so up here we have the old classic table, and here we have the modern table. So what's really neat, and while we're here, we can look at this, we can arrange things Z to A. That's really nice that we have this extra functionality in the modern tables. That's why I'm really starting to like tables over galleries. Okay, so now we've collected everything and we've split out the details. So now how can we split out each one of these? And let's do format text. And let me just format this how I like it. And this is literally how I do these things. I break things down piece by piece. I don't just know all this off the back of my head. You can look it up, search, but this is how I break it down piece by piece. ForAll FlattenMe. Is that what I want? ForAll the FlattenMe. What I really want to do is I want ForAll of this value of my ThisRecord.Details. So right here, I'm going to do ForAll ThisRecord.Details for each of those. I then want, not to by the concatenate, I then want it by the value. Get rid of that parentheses. Let's see, what am I missing? No. 2 parentheses. Format text. There we go. So I'm going to clear my collection for everything in my SharePoint list. Then for everything in my details column, I'm going to collect the ID, the title that we renamed name, the manager, and then the details. And the reason it's value is because I'm saying this record. So I'm saying of this record details. I don't think we could do this record.details. Oh, .value. That also works. Let's try that. Let's see what happens if I do that. Oh, there we go. We've now flattened it. John Smith, Larry Managers, lamp, desk, chair, phone, tie, pin, mug. Done. That's through SharePoint, right? So we've done it through SharePoint. Okay, so we have this. This is flatten. Let's make another SharePoint list. I won't make you watch me make this one. I'm just going to make another SharePoint list, except for details will be a single line text. It will not be a choice field. I created a new SharePoint list. So this has original ID. So I created a new ID field. Title, manager, and details. So I'm just going to create a button that's going to patch that. Let's see, where did my button go? I'm going to do patch, and I'm going to do it the long way. I'm going to do it with ForAll just so I match everything up. It's a good exercise. So patch, or actually, yeah, ForAll. Ooh, this is interesting. Collection, my collection. So for my collection, I want to patch. And what do I want to patch? I haven't connected to this data source. Let's connect to this one. SharePoint, flatten, details, SLT, single line text. That's just what I called it. So details, SLT. Okay, so we're going to patch to details, SLT, and we're going to patch original ID with ID. So that's the name of my SharePoint column to the name in my collection. And the next one is title to title, manager to manager, and details to details. So we need a parentheses. Okay, so now we have a long patch statement, and this one's going to loop through, and it's just so I can get more control. So I'm going to map original ID to ID, title to title, manager to manager, details to details. If we look at my collection, are the names right? Let's see, if we look at my collection, details, ID, manager, title, that all looks correct. Let's hit the button. Okay, it's going to write to SharePoint. It's looping through. We check out my details, SLT. Boom, we've now flattened the data. All right, so we did it in SharePoint. Let's do it with just collections. I feel like it's a little different with collections because we have to do like some splits in there. And if you want to do it for Dataverse, maybe this is something you want to figure out. But today we're going to do SharePoint and collections. Okay. This table right now is the item source to my SharePoint list. What I'm going to do is I'm going to collect instead. So we'll create another button. We're going to collect a table. So we're going to do this without SharePoint. So forget SharePoint. SharePoint's gone. All right, so we're going to collect. We're going to collect my new table. Name it whatever you'd like. And then we're going to have a table. And it's going to have ID 1, title, John Smith. Oh, this probably needs to be double quotes. Manager, Larry. I spelled it Larry Managers. Oh, we'll keep it the same. Larry Managers. And details. This time we're going to have, let's see if we can do this. Lamp, desk, chair, phone. Is that how I want to do it? All right, so you can see this is actually a single line text, comma. Oh, wait, let's end it just to make sure how that looks. Let's see, I'm missing parentheses. There we go. So now let's format it. Okay, so you can see I'm collecting a new table and it has one row. Now let's make a second row. And this one will be 2. And let's see, what was our data? Harry Hall, Jane Smith, tie pin mug. Tie pin mug. Okay, so we have a new table now. So if I click on this button, it's going to be collect table. Right, so collect table. Now we're going to replace this data table with my new collection. Collect, what was it? My table. I don't remember what the name of my collection was. Collect my new table. So this data table is now going to be collect my new table. And you can see there we have an error on details. Right, we just have to fix the table because I did like a calculation before. So let's just remove details and add details back. Oh, an ID. Let's see, and let's see, we have a custom ID field. There we go. So now we have ID, title, manager, details. And let me zoom out a little bit. So ID, title, manager, details. But now we're using this table, right? Oh, I just collected again. Let's add in something different here. Let's add in fan. Oh, fan. And let's add in a fan here too. All right, so this time we changed up the data. Before I collect, we'll say ClearCollect. So we can do a ClearCollect here. So now when I press ClearCollect, you can see I have one row, John Smith, Larry Managers, 5 options here, 4 options here. Now, let's flatten this, the collection. It's going to be different. It's definitely going to be different. So ForAll, collection MyNewTable, I believe that's correct. And you can see all kinds of things are going wrong here. Instead of ThisRecord.Details, we need to split it up by that comma, right? So we have that comma in there. So instead of doing it by ThisRecord.Details, now we need to split it up by that comma. So split ThisRecord.Details by that comma. And let's see, title is now off because I believe that's called title. And that is it. So now when we press our flatten button, boom, we have 5 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have fan here in 4 rows. And now we can just easily press play and patch, and it's going to write to our SharePoint list again. So there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is how I would flatten tables in Power Apps. Now this may be actually easier in Power Automate, and it may be even the easiest in Power BI, right? Like that's what Power BI does, is you can normalize, denormalize data and kind of do all that data manipulation. But to do it in Power Apps and to view it like this is how you would do it. So thank you all for the question. Feel free to keep asking questions. I'm going to keep working on that backlog. Thank you all for watching. My name is Andrew Hess. I'll see you next week.